Welcome back to another. We're just going to be quick because, there's not much more to talk about. But this has to do with the January 20th order, restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. We went over this like maybe about a month ago at this point, but it's on the live stream section, so this will be on the videos. Anyways, this order has to do with ensuring that no federal government officer, employee, or agent engages in facilitates any conduct that would unconstitutionally abridge the free speech of any American citizen. Sorry, I'm just waking up. So, right here, we have this, and then let's see if there was any actual instances of infringing on the protected free speech rights of American citizens across the United States. I implore you to look at this up yourself. The signature isn't on this page, it's on the other one. But you know who was in charge, so.
Have them instead. At least it's somebody we can trust, though, right? We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay? And it didn't just happen once.
When I heard it, I was in the midst of, building a great, for 150 years they've won.
So the first part is what I know about. The second part, not so much. So when clearly there's no hate speech going on. There's no, just because you're pointing something out doesn't constitute any sort of violation of free speech. That's just fundamentally true. And to criticize the president, obviously, I believe this was in the Declaration of Independence itself, but that's the right of the citizens, And not even just the citizens, the people that reside under the jurisdiction of the United States of America, following the Constitution, and the plain text that we see there. So even if you go to freedom of speech, freedom of press, and everything is that, I want the actual, there we go. Again, I tell you people, just friggin' read this shit, but they list the grievances here, and if I can find, combination of large districts, dissolve the representative houses repeatedly. That was one way that he could silence them. Clearly not allowing representatives to speak or to do anything of the sort. Naturalization of foreigners, so what's going on with immigration? Let's see. These are all different things. You can, again, check this out for yourself and see where it is. Tenure offices, quarter and bodies. Yeah. Oh. Imposing taxes on us without our consent. Cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. Abolishing the free system of English laws. Okay, that's slightly different. Abdicated the government here. These are all very similar to what's been going on. So not allowing the representatives is the way that they did silence free speech. Not listening to people in general and doing all of these things against their will. That's the whole underlying point, right? That's why we have freedom of speech. So constrain fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country. Excited domestic insurrections amongst us. To bring the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless, Indian savages. Jeez. That was the thing too. Perspective was all about that. Check that out. We got the clip, and then we have this. And then going to just quick instances of the federal censorship, because clearly there's no hate speech. And in this regard, with this executive order, the FCC shouldn't even exist at this point, right? And that's all I really gotta say. Because the FCC, and it took me a while just to find the freaking clip, but they still have it on the Jimmy Kimmel Show live, so let's see. Is the FCC a part of the federal government? So I looked this up and I made a post about it, saying that I was going to make this video. It's still okay. It's still the same. Yes, the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, is a federal agency. And I asked, if it's a part of the federal government? It is an arm of the federal government. It is basically run by the president in a way that he appoints people and the Senate affirms, just like every other federal agency, right? You hear the word federal. This isn't to be misconstrued with like a separate power, because it is a part of the federal government. And since January 20th, they've all just been breaking their own rules. Like, not even just the FCC. It's obvious. The FBI, Customs and Borders. So, I mean, this is just one specific instance where clearly they had an influence. Clearly they were giving orders from the FCC. It's the act that ending censorship of protected speech. No federal department, agency, entity, officer, employee, or agent may act or use any federal resources in a manner contrary to Section 2 of this order. Section 2, that we just went over that. Section 2B. Ensure that no federal government officer, that's the FCC. I know when it comes to hate speech, but there's no hate speech at all. You can say that he's implying this, that, or the third, but he's not, regardless of whatever the motive was. And let's just finish up the clip before I leave.
Wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects that would design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in. They said, Charlie Kirk is dead. I didn't know what they meant. I said, what do you mean dead? Charlie Kirk was shot. And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific.
So dramatic.
And I said, dead.
And then we installed the most beautiful chandelier. Sconces you wouldn't believe. There's something wrong with them. There really is. I mean, who thinks like that? And why are we building a $200 million ballroom in the White House? Is it possible that he's doing it intentionally so we could be bad about that instead of the Epstein list by the time he's out of office?
And then he just goes on to bash the president more and more. Which is, again, a point when drafting and ratifying the Constitution and working on the First Amendment, when you look at, same logic as Charlie, when you look at literature of the past, right? And we get to see why these things are the way they are. Again, go look through the Declaration of Independence, go look through the U.S. Constitution, go look through especially this order directly from the president. And just ask yourself if this is right or not. I implore you, take a minute to look at this shit, because no one else is really talking about this. I get everyone's stuck on what's going on. They're just criticizing, but where's the accountability? Where's the enforcement? Where's the representatives actually saying this? I haven't heard anyone else say this. And I don't think in any way, shape, or form you can justify that clip as hate speech. Just truly. Because all he did was point out people's perspectives on the issue. That's literally all he did. He pointed out people's perspectives, just specifically on one side of the issue, not saying this, that, or the third, saying this, that, and then played 2 clips of the president. Just don't say Charlie. That's it. All you can do. And even if you don't say it, you're still in trouble. At least online. At least if you're not on a list. And this is the problem. And I get the whole, people that say really bad things and hurt people of certain race or certain color. There have been people who made lists in the past and have done similar with employers and shit like that. But I feel like that's a completely different thing, especially with ones that were legitimate hate speech. And even if it's about he who shall not be named at this point, because that's how I feel about it. It's hard to grasp the words to really just make this make sense. Because granted, this person has had opinions aligning with, I don't know, man, the pendulum swinging way too hard. That's all. And then obviously within the last few days, there's been so many instances, at least online, that I've seen of people getting unalived. So, I don't know, man. Just don't say Charlie. People just point out the facts, man. Or leave. I'm just gonna flash the First Amendment and boop, 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 boop. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So, and this is another thing too, the whole Antifa classification. Granted, sure, there's people that destroy property, but at the same time, most of these instances, especially the protests, people haven't been losing lives, unlike what happens at schools. So, should have had more security, man. Should have had better funding for schools. These are all points that, well, except for the funding part, but the more security at schools, he who should not be named has also stated that. And you've agreed. So why aren't we agreeing on everything else that's actually going on? Why can't we just read, call things out for what they are, and not lose your job over it? Especially if this is ridiculous. So I'm done. Anyways, peace. Also, don't say Charlie.